Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for more Heroes of Normandy. Now I've been wanting to get back into the Khan scenarios from Battle Pack 2 for the longest time, and finally, thanks to one of those handy summer weekends, I'm able to get the chance. I really would like to play the Trading Blows scenario from Battle Pack 2, which of course is this one. It's an 8-turn scenario, so I'm possibly being a bit ambitious because, as you can see, my hugely tolerant family is putting up with me basically dominating our dining table, I guess for as long as I have until their patience runs out. So I'm going to do my best to get through this over the course of the weekend and do a series of videos playing the scenario through, and we'll see how I do. If I have to cut it off early, I have to cut it off early. So I found this scenario quite interesting when I was reading through them because it's a bit of a it's a bit of a fresh air in the middle of a scenario book which is full of really interesting, challenging ones. This one's a great one because the advantage tilts first from one side to the other. So a bit of background, this represents the British assault on the town of Saint Manvieu, and the Commonwealth forces have been driving fairly steadily into the town, pushing aside the 26th Panzer Grenadiers, except for one last group of holdouts who are hanging on to what used to be the unit's headquarters building in the middle of town. So a fresh Commonwealth force has arrived to relieve the others who've basically been capturing these piles of rubble round here. And our task is to clear that final building and then hold the town, because inevitably there's going to be a German counterattack. So the way that this scenario has been very cleverly balanced is that I have some reinforcements in the form of an anti-tank gun, quite a few mortars, and some heavy artillery that represents Royal Artillery units, and even some naval units standing by to offer gunfire support. So that would be really handy if I can get it. However, I don't get my reinforcements until the end of the turn in which I secure that objective. So the sooner we take that house as the British, the better. The German objectives are very different. They obviously want to hold on to that house for as long as they can, but the structure is not critical to their victory conditions. Once their counterattack begins on turn 4, they have to secure that building and another structure to the north over there. Now, I'm going to play as if I'm unaware of these specific scenario objectives, because to be completely fair, I wouldn't be. As the British commander, I'd be able to see perfectly well that German units are massing outside the town for a counterattack, but I wouldn't have any clear sense, other than broadly the town, of what they were particularly aiming for. So I'm going to try and play that way. In terms of how I've disposed the forces, for my own, I was briefly tempted to form a bit of a sledgehammer. The Commonwealth deployment is actually a big crescent that starts from about there, moves round the board, and comes up to this edge here. And it was very tempting to just clump everyone together and hit that building with a sledgehammer. But in the end, I decided against that, because the way I feel this battle would have been developing, it would have been a bit more historically true to life to actually have several forces gradually compressing their lines towards the objective. So I have a sizable infantry force over there, which if I go closer, you'll be able to see. Here we go. So the assumption is we've seized this building, perhaps not yet appreciating its tactical importance to the Germans, but I've staffed it with a Bren team on Overwatch. We have a leader team backing them up, and I have 2 leader teams and a fire team ready to swing round behind them. I also have a very important asset in the Wasp flamethrower universal carrier. That's going to be very handy for trying to clear that house. I have another fire team seemingly randomly over here, but there's a method to my madness because I have an eye on that tactical bonus. I'd really like to find out what it is. And lastly, the team I'm really going to be relying on to perhaps complete the storming of the house. This line of infantry I've got here with a Piat, just the one fire team, which is a bit chancy, but I've my deployed 2-inch mortar and I also have a Bren team. I am being a bit daring having my officer out on the wing, but he's another combat asset and I really want to use him. As for the Germans, I won't go into too much detail to preserve the fog of war, save to say that all the units deployed on the board are infantry or officers, or, basically foot sloggers of one sort or another. Now, the AI does benefit, as it always does in solo mode scenarios, from setting up after the human player has set up. So that is my deployment. Now, those of you who are familiar with the solo system will see that I've violated a couple of the precious tenets of this system, as I did in my previous game. The reason I've done this, not spreading these guys out a bit more, is, to my way of thinking, the Germans are very mindful of the importance of this objective to the British. So while it is tempting for them to spread out, they run the huge risk of weakening their defense. I mean, they could man this building here, but they're bright enough to appreciate that the only reason I have that unit out there for the moment is probably to seize the tactical bonus. And really what's more important is staving off my efforts to get at the house. So they've clustered 3 of their units around the objective, but they've also placed 2 of them to the south. They've quite rightly sensed that I'm building up a bit of a punch down there. And also, there's some good defensible rough ground there. If these 2 units on their own can make the most of their terrain and hold me back, then that's a good chunk of my force that just gets bogged down and has to waste time trying to get to the objective. So that's how I rationalized that one. The other one was visibility, because while the defenders of the house have fairly clear fields of fire in that direction, the ruined building down here was potentially a major problem, so they needed eyes on the ground there. And if things get sticky for them, there's no reason why they can't fall back towards the house. So just another word on the AI before I get going for turn 1. I randomized the AI's capabilities on the dashboard, so the Germans are playing with a defensive mindset in this game. Now, that's going to be interesting to see how it pans out, because initially the Germans have to play very defensively to hold the house. But later on, they're going to have to be a bit more aggressive when they launch their counterattack. Now, you can launch an offensive with a defensive mindset in the solo mode, but it just means your men advance more deliberately, rather than going for crazy headlong assaults. So no insane Battle of the Bulge type SS charges here, I don't think. The difficulty, as you'll have seen, was also medium. So that's great for me. I'm not exactly fighting Rommel, but then unfortunately this force isn't under the personal direction of Himmler, which was a shame because given his tactical and strategic incompetence, I'd have a very easy afternoon. But no, we've got some mid-level person running the show here. So, without any further ado, one last German asset, which I should mention. Note the dreaded red dot over there. What that represents is an elevated spotting position for a battery of 88mm guns on the hills outside of town. Now, the Germans can call on these for 3 shots. They're going to make use of them, but it's going to be judicious because 3 shots worth of off-map 88 sounds like a lot, but they're going to have to make the tough decision about whether they hold it all back to support their counterattack, or whether they expend them early trying to stop my efforts to get at the house, or whether they do a bit of both. It's going to be a tough call for them. There's one last asset the Germans have, which I'll place now, which is their fortified tokens. Now, what these do is they increase the defensive strength of infantry units defending a structure. And if the area they're in is subject to a destructive attack aimed at literally bringing down the house, they can cash in one of those tokens if it's in the affected area in lieu of the house suffering structural damage. So they are very well dug in there. This is going to be a little bit on the tough side. So I think that covers everything for the pre-mission briefing. So on to turn 1. So we begin with the orders phase, and I am going to start by drawing the action card that the AI is entitled to. Oh no, they have a mine. Drat, I hate these. I really, really hate them. So I have to be careful where I place my feet. So how to open the ball? I think my first order really ought to go to my wasp over here, because that's quite a powerful asset and I want to get it into action as soon as possible. The scenario doesn't specify that I have to capture the house intact, only the objective. So I'm going to treat that as license to level the place if I have to, or at least burn the defenders out of it. So my wasp is going to get my first order. I can't use my 2-inch mortar because there's no revealed targets at the moment. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to very cautiously move my Bren team forward in a scouting role, because they only have to move one space forward to get a sight of that unit there. And possibly also that one too. So I have to see, I think it's just about possible. So yes, I will use them in a scouting role to smoke them out. And then the last thing I'm going to do by way of offensive action is follow them up with my... Should I use the fire team or the Piat team? Don't really want to waste Piat rounds just yet, so I'll get the fire team in a position to do some assaulting if need be. So that looks like a fairly good start point. I've got some useful cards here that I can hopefully make use of, but a lot depends on what happens. So moving into the turn, and I'll go in a bit close so you have some idea of what's going on. So the first thing to go will be my wasp. The Germans, of course, will respond by drawing cards. Okay, that is fine with me. I might live to regret saying that. Okay, an assault bonus. And the second card they're entitled to draw is a fall back. Okay, not a bad spread of options for the AI. But the best news for me is that they do not interrupt when my wasp goes roaring forward. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now that is annoying. I made a mistake there by placing him so far back because... although actually, 1, 2... Oh no, we can see. And that turns out to be a decoy unit. So there we were, roaring up, expecting to see someone in there. And there was nobody. Never mind. That is actually quite useful to know. So moving on to my second order token, I will activate my Bren team, and the Germans will respond with reinforcements. Okay, probably not a bad idea either. So I'll give the reinforcement bag a bit of a shake. And they have got the services of an SS fire group. Okay. Now, I think the most logical entry point for the fire group in terms of their reinforcements arrival would be to put it there. My thinking is they're going to reinforce the house and help the defenders of the house keep the objective. So that seems to be the best place for them. They also get to place an order token as per the second icon on the card. And we are playing at medium difficulty. So who to give the order to? It's very tempting, given that this area is going to be engaged fairly soon, to give the order to one of these two. Now, depending on who that turns out to be, we've already had the decoy revealed, so it's going to be a real unit. In all likelihood, the Bren gun is only going to move, so the Germans will give the order to that unit because they will get a chance to act, at least as far as the AI knows. And I am going to play Burst into Action on my Bren team because I want them to be able to do some shooting if it proves necessary. So they move forward one space, and in so doing, they trigger the possibility of a mine attack. So I'm just going to roll for that. And it's a 5. Oh no, this unit steps on a mine and suffers a hit. Oh, drat. Okay. That was not good. Do I have anything that can help them out? No, I don't. So my poor Bren team blundered into a minefield and has, or let's say they entered a booby-trapped crater, and I have lost their services. That is not a good start. So now, of course, play goes to the Germans because that was my turn. They are going to reveal this unit. Ah, and it's one of their officers. It is, in fact, Milius, who is the commander of the defense here. So talk about leading from the front. Now he can see my fire team over there, and he can see perfectly well that they have an order. And he is within firing range, so he is going to take his shot. I can't do anything about that with the cards I have in hand, so he gets a +2. We're not in any kind of cover. So he gets a total of 4, which sadly for me is exactly what he needed. And he wasn't going for pinning fire because well, he can't anyway. So he has just opened up and has shot up a load of my poor people over there. That's not how I envisioned this going down. So back to me. I'm about to activate that poor unit down there. When the Germans react again, 3 AI units take a movement action towards the nearest objective, following the priorities listed in the reaction action movement on the decision board. Okay, now that's interesting, because what it does, at the moment the only active objective is the British one in the house. So what that can represent is that these fellows here take a movement action, but if they do that, they will end up revealing themselves. And also, because of the nature of that breach, they would have to stop. That's a very tough question for the AI, because they're in a good defensive position there and they don't really need to be over there. Except that there is now an empty gap, because that proved to be a decoy. I think I'm going to roll off on this one because they do have a good position there and there's not yet any reason to abandon it. So I'll say a 1, 2, 3, they stay in position. A 4, 5, 6, they'll obey the AI order and go for it. Oh, they're going to obey the order and go for it. So it's a unit. So let's get the units bag and see who's coming. And it is, oh, sorry, wrong bag. I just dug that out the reinforcements bag. Whoops. That could have gone a tiny bit wrong. It is an SS fire group. So actually I should thank my lucky stars, really. So they're going to go 1. Now, which route to get back into the house? They could go there and be fairly secure. So 1, 2, and then they have to wait because that breach isn't terribly wide. But they are under cover where they are. So I'll give them an activated marker. And now my poor boys get to move. And there's a tough choice here. I think I will have them burst into action as well. And they can go 1, 2, 3. Yes, 1, 2. Enter the zone of control, but they're going to shoot. I don't really trust them doing an assault in their weakened state, so let's just hope that they have enough firepower to pull this off. They are shooting at a disadvantage because of the fire on the move penalty. Actually, I needn't bother because he is so well dug in over there. We can't do anything. Even if we roll a 6, we won't do well enough to... decisions. 1, 2. Maybe I should just assault him. Yes, let's go for assaulting him. It's a risk, but I think it's a worthwhile risk to take out an officer. And I do have the weak point card, which I can use for an assault bonus, so... We have the assault capability. So we roll 2 dice and we add 1. This is actually probably a terrible idea. 5. Oh dear. Oh no, we add 2 because of the assault bonus card I played. So 6. Unfortunately for me, he also has one of those and he's going to play it. So his total bonus is 5. Oh dear, this is going to go badly wrong. Yep, and they got a 5 as their higher number, so it does go badly wrong. Our fire team's valiant attempt to try and clear the German officer out the ruins has failed miserably. And that is really not a good end to turn 1 for me. So, on to the supply phase. He is a complete and utter pain, but I can't afford to get distracted. So I think what I'm going to do is try some flanking moves if I can. 1, 2. This is risky. Very risky. But I suppose it gives them something to worry about. I'll leave my mortar where it is, but I will move my officer. Actually, no, I won't. I will have him crawl a bit further up. Because he's still benefiting from the terrain bonus there, but he has to stop anyway because of the rubble. Over on this side of the battlefield, this one's a bit of an easy decision. I will just have my friend here run into... Actually, no one can draw bead on him. So I may as well push him a bit further forward there, just to claim that. And lastly, up on the northern side, I'll leave those units where they are for now, but I will get my infantry moving. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3 round the corner. Get in behind the wasp over there. So we're into, that was the movement side of the supply phase done. So let's see what's in these lovely little boxes. Ooh, reinforcement. That's actually quite handy. At the end of an orders phase, that allows, at the end of a supply phase, you can bring a unit back as a reinforcement if it's an infantry unit. What is the other one? Hopefully something nice. Oh, another reinforcement. Perfect. I can bring back the 2 units that I've just lost. Well, that is marvellous, because I was feeling a bit bad about those horrific losses. The Germans, of course, take that activated marker off their infantry unit, and the officer removes his order marker. I similarly take mine back. And as for cards in hand, I only have precision left, which I want to keep. So I'm going to just draw another 3. Ooh, second chance. Could have done with you earlier. Be ready. I won't say no to that one either. And thank the helmet. Okay, those are all very useful. So that brings us to the end of turn 1. So the situation is not looking too good for me. I've commenced my movement on the objective, but already I'm being stymied by heavy resistance in the ruined building to the south of it. And what's particularly insulting is that the AI felt the lone officer was doing so well keeping me at bay that they felt able to order that bunch back into the house to stiffen the defense there. Rude. Oh, yes, I did forget one thing. This unit will now move in as reinforcements during the supply phase. So 1, 2, 3. They are going to enter cover because it makes no sense to leave themselves exposed out there. And next turn they'll carry on their bounding towards the house. They could actually go round the back way and get in there perfectly safely. So that is that. So turn 2 is going to be interesting. The good news for me is I now have units who are a bit closer who can start scouting out who's in the house. And I also want to really bring my wasp into play because a building that strong, the most efficient way of clearing the defenders is to cook them out of it in the nicest possible way. Because I really want to have that chunk of real estate. So I just hope my wasp doesn't fall victim to some counterfire because that could be bad. The other thing is now that we have revealed units, my little mortar all the way back here can hopefully start contributing to the battle by targeting said exposed units. So yes, we still have time. There's 2 more full turns before the German attack assembles and begins to roll in on the town. But I do need to buck up because I want my own reinforcements. I want my heavy support. And I want something... sorry. I want something to counter the battery of 88s that are down there. Because the Germans haven't used them yet because there hasn't really been a need for them yet. But I think the threat posed by the Wasp, which they can see from that position, is going to require them to bring those guns into play because that could be my main game changer in terms of clearing the house. But I will leave these idle speculations and we'll see how the battle develops in turn 2. For now, I'm going to wrap this video up here, so it only remains for me to say a huge thank you to you all for tuning in and watching this. A big hello to my Heroes of Normandy veterans. I really hope you guys are all doing well, and I hope you've enjoyed this video and are looking forward to the follow-ups as much as I am. As I say, I don't know if I'll be able to complete all 8 turns over the course of the weekend, but I shall certainly do my best. To anyone who's just wandered in, is new to my channel, or is chasing Heroes of Normandy, a very warm welcome to you. You're very welcome indeed. If the game Heroes of Normandy is what brought you to my channel, then please do have a look at some of my other videos. If it's wargaming in general that's led you to this place, then please do have a look at whatever else I've got on the video playlist. I hope that there's something that you find interesting in addition to this. But whatever's brought you here, and whoever you are, you're all really welcome. Thanks again for your company. I really appreciate the number of you who take the time to watch these videos, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I have fun making them. So with that said, thank you guys very much. Please feel free to comment if you want to. I'm always open to tactical advice, good suggestions, and most importantly, corrections, because while I love this game to bits, there is just something about me. I have a bit of a mental block when it comes to certain aspects of Heroes of Normandy, and I often miss stuff. So if you do spot anything I've slipped up on, please do call it out. I really welcome such input because it it makes me a better player for one, and I really appreciate that. So until the next video, thank you all very much and do take care. Hope you're enjoying your summers. All the best. Bye.